Real talk, real impact, unfiltered and unapologetic. This is FemmeIcon.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. This is Mahvish Akhtar, and you are watching another episode of FemmeIcon. Today, as you can see, we are talking about women and aging. And hello to everybody who's joining in. And this is a very, very sensitive topic, right? So it's really hard to talk about it without getting upset or emotional or kind of getting controversial. But we're going to do all of those things today. We're going to go to all those places that we don't like to go, right? We're going to present statistics, and we're going to talk about in terms of how the world perceives this issue. And then at the same time, not at the same time, because it's very different how the world perceives this issue, whether young or old. And then we're going to talk about how women who are aging perceive the world from their view or how people are viewing them. And then we'll see how young women how they see their future, how they see what things are coming to them. And I can imagine it can be quite scary. Well, I can imagine in the sense that I'm there, right? I'm going to be 49 this year, so I'm actually the perfect person to ask if you think about it, right? So yeah, we're not gonna romanticize this, and we're not gonna talk about in terms of, oh, everything turns out okay in the end and everything is just, because no, it's not. Because we have a huge section of society that is disappearing, and हम इसको बहुत छोटी चीज समझते हैं. हम इसको, okay, I'm gonna have to get my glasses. That's another perk of getting older. Please also talk about how these perspectives differ in the East and the West debate. Okay, yeah, that will come in. जब हम statistics की बात करेंगे तो उसके साथ ये आ जाएगा कि हमारी culture में और उस culture में ये चीज़ें कैसे different हैं. But to be very honest, इस regard में, other than the respect aspect, बहुत difference नहीं है. एक तो ये कि ज़ाहिर है हम अपने elders को, men and women, certain obviously respect ज़्यादा देते हैं, and we'll go in detail with that when we talk about it in a little bit more detail. और दूसरा ये कि हम अपने women over there, because it's a individualistic society in the West, women take care of their own businesses, their own finances, so they're a little bit more independent. And towards the end of their life, when they're still in their senses and they still know what is happening around them, कोई बीमारी नहीं है या कोई इस तरह का मसला नहीं है, so they're more financially independent. So that basically is, these two are major differences. But we will discuss this a little bit more. Now, let me start with the story about myself. As I just said, yeah, I'm at that border or almost there where I'll be considered an old person from this point forward. Or already I am considered an old person because I'm an auntie. Everybody says so. So no, in all seriousness, मेरा अपने बहन भाई से काफ़ी difference है. Those who know me, I've said that like a million times, कि मेरे बहनें ख़ास तौर पे मुझसे 12 और 13 साल बड़ी हैं. But they're close together. एक साल का फ़र्क है उन दोनों में. तो उनके, and I really do hope none of my nieces and nephews are here, and they'll watch it later and get mad at me, and this is an important story. तो वो लोग जब उनके बच्चे हुए, अब माशाल्लाह they're adults, married, in their 20s and 30s, बच्चे हैं उनके भी अब. तो उस वक्त जब मैं ऐसे 13, 14, 15, 16, all of my teens and tweens, and starting from like 13, I think, up to, all of my, until I got married. उस एज तक उनके बच्चे हो रहे थे मेरी बहनों के, and I was young, so I was taking care of them. मेरे घर बेबी सिटिंग के लिए आ रहे हैं, रात में ठहर रहे हैं, and I was the cool खाला. चूँकि दोनों बहनों के बच्चे थे, दोनों बहनें अपने बच्चों में बिजी थी, तो they were the disciplinaries अपन एक दूसरे के बच्चों के लिए भी. ठीक है ना, आई खाला के घर जा रहे हैं तो उधर भी उनके भी बच्चे, आपस में बहुत दोस्ती थी उनकी. तो अगर वो दूसरी खाला, छोटी खाला के यहाँ जा रहे हैं तो वो अपने कज़न्स के पास जा रहे हैं, तो वहाँ पे भी हो रहा है नहीं जल्दी सो जाओ और ये नहीं करना वो नहीं करना और गंद नहीं मचाओ. उस खाला के यहाँ जा रहे हैं तो वहाँ पे भी यही रूल्स हैं, बट कज़न्स से खेलने जा रहे हैं. हमारे घर आते थे नानी के घर, तो आई didn't care. You weekends पे आते थे. I was like, yeah, let's watch a movie. Let's stay up late. I'll take you to McDonald's. And so I was that khala. So I was the cool khala, the let's have fun kind of person. And then jab ye log apne teenagers mein, I was in my 20s. I was still the one, oh, can you drive us here? Can you take us to the movies? Or jo kaam parents ne nahi karna hota tha, I was the one. अच्छा अपनी खाला से पर बोले जाएंगी, खाला के साथ कर लो, उनके साथ, या तुम इनको. So अभी भी when I go to visit them शादी के बाद बच्चों के साथ, they remember the things that we did when they were younger and I was young. Right? I did things with them that their parents didn't want to, hung out with them places, and a lot of places that, a lot of things that their parents wouldn't approve of. Their parents probably don't know today. And I wouldn't want them to do now with their cousins, right? मेरे बच्चों के साथ. But as time passed, this is the important part. क्योंकि उस वक्त I was in my teenagers, 18, 19, 20, शादी के बाद भी 20s में, up to like my 30s, I was cool. Like, oh, खाला जानी जैसे कपड़े बना दें, खाला जानी की तरह की चीज़ दे दें. Oh, you will, man kuch kharida hai to, can I have this? Can you buy me something like this? Still I was cool because I was youngish. Then there was a flip. And I understand it. There wasn't anything, because I understand, because that happened to me too with my sisters. They were cool at a certain point, but then there was like, no, you don't get it. But with all of my experience and all of the life I have lived, and I had with them, with all of the things I had taught them, the problems they had come to me with, all of a sudden it was like, but how do you don't get it, right? Because कोई वो नहीं हुआ कि हमारे बीच में कोई टाइम पास हुआ, या हमने साथ टाइम नहीं गुजारा, या टाइम बीच में से ख़त्म हो गया, या कोई break आया. All of a sudden, it wasn't like we were equals, because equals, definitely I understand, right? क्योंकि equal में ये होता है कि वो भी बड़े हो गए ना, they're in their 20s and 30s, I'm in my, at that time चलो if they're in their 20s, I'm in my 30s, समझ आती है बात कि we're equals. Treat them like equals, because they're having same kind of world experiences, I'm having same kind of world experiences. But then you don't know anything. You don't understand. So मैंने तो इस तरह लिया कि okay, it's a phase, गुजर जाएगा. But then imagine that, and I wasn't their parent. So for me, it was like, okay, imagine that on a constant loop for all the women out there, getting that message from everyone on a constant loop. You don't, after a certain age, 30 के बाद, 40 के बाद, you don't understand. You were really pretty when you were 30. So now I'm just talking in general. I think we're done talking about them. कि ये जो flip होता है ना, when you were 35, 40, you were beautiful, you were really pretty. The way you dressed made sense. The way you behaved was important. You were needed for the parties. You were needed. You were putting parties together. You were putting events together. But now, you don't look as good. So, आ जाओ तो आ जाओ, नहीं आओ तो हम कर लेंगे गुजारा तुम्हारे बगैर. खाना तुम्हारा हाँ अच्छा होता है लेकिन वो क्वालिटी नहीं रही, उम्र हो गई है ना. So your value is decreasing because you're slowing down. And then same goes with, because value beauty पे और खाने पे और घर को सजाने पे लगी हुई थी, and the woman was struggling with that. When she messes up in other things, जिस पे तवज्जो ही नहीं दी थी ना पहले, because तवज्जो इन चीज़ों पे लगी थी. When she can't remember the name of a president, and I'm giving you very specific examples because this is what happens औरतों के साथ. This is exactly what happens. किसी president का नाम नहीं आता, कोई incident हुआ है, जिक्र हो रहा है, and she's like, क्या हुआ? And it's like, तुम तो रहने दो, तुम्हें क्या पता? So then what does she do? She quietly gets up and just goes in the kitchen and finds something to do. Because her value was, when she could sit there and look pretty, अगर आप कोई ऐसे comment भी दे दें जिनकी कोई importance नहीं है, तो people will look at you because you looked nice. So that cycle continues. So that is how, you were, अब mothers का भी, मैंने अपनी example दी है, I'm a khala, so it didn't really affect me as much, लेकिन अगर आप mothers का भी देखें, तो बच्चे एक point पे आके कहने लगते हैं, अम्मी आप रहने दें, आप छोड़ दें, मुझे पता है आप नहीं करें. Those things is, you have somebody who you've been, the kids might be saying it कि they care about their mother, कि आप rest करें, and you have done so much. लेकिन there's a condescension in that attitude. It's not because आप इधर बैठे मुझे बताएं किस तरह करना है, मैं आपसे सीखूंगी, आपसे सीखूंगा, लेकिन आप physically अपने आप को परेशान ना करें. It's not that. It's just you don't know the way of the world. How can somebody जिसने, if you're 60, 50 साल दुनिया देखी है, 50 साल दुनिया में effort की है, all of a sudden doesn't know how the world works? Right? That's what runs through that person's mind जिसको आप इस तरह बात कर रहे हैं. ठीक है ना? तो regardless of what the intention is, but when it comes to women, the intention शुरू से ही understanding की नहीं होती. Intention शुरू से ही यही होती है कि let's just let them quietly phase away. And that's what women do because they don't have any other choice. Because कोई और रास्ता होता नहीं हो हमारे सामने, औरतों के सामने. So I'm just going to read some statistics and then get to the main points. I just wanted to elaborate on what we are talking about today so people have a better understanding. So I'm just going to be reading some things जो हमारे Women's Health Organization and some other organizations research की research से हमें over the last couple of years, basically 10 years and less say, we've found. So this is Pakistan 2023. Pakistan में Pakistani men and women between the ages of 50 and 54, इनकी जो वो है तादाद है is 4.2 million. And by 2050, it will increase to, अगर इसी तरह situation रही, deaths and births and in between जो सारा situation है, it will be 9 million. Now, do we need the elderly population? We really don't. Okay. So, औरतों के हिसाब से the longevity of women is more like औरतें ज़्यादा जिंदा रहती हैं. However, they live longer than men. ये तो हमें पता ही था. However, Despite longer life expectancy, women often face socioeconomic disadvantages that continue into old age. So हमारे यहाँ ये मसला है कि औरतें जिंदा तो रहती हैं लेकिन उनको क्योंकि हेल्थ क्योंकि उनको इकोनॉमिक प्रॉब्लम्स होते हैं जिसकी वजह से फिर उनके सोशल इश्यूज बढ़ जाते हैं और उनके हेल्थ इश्यूज बन जाते हैं. One of the main issues that women face is economic issues में is inheritance. Along with other problems, जाहिर है job की security नहीं है, and we'll get into all of that कि क्या क्या social issues हैं, such as inheritance, not being fairly distributed, job opportunities, less pay for the same job as men. So this is especially for older women. We're not women over 50. So I wouldn't even say older. Like at this age, when I think old, I think 80, right? At 50, I'm thinking 80. But I remember at 30, 50, 20 years in the future was a lot for me, right? I thought 20, oh my God, 50 is old. And honestly, at 49 or 50, I feel like the same person as I was, not physically, for sure not physically. They can mentally, and as far as capability is concerned, I feel pretty much the same, right? So, ab masla ye hai ki I'm not going to get the same jobs that a 30-year-old would get. But, God forbid, my husband dies or leaves me, I'm stuck with 2 kids, and I'm going to need the same kind of job that I would when I was 30. अब बताएं उस situation में, क्या? What are my options? I'm out of options, right? And inheritance is a huge issue. I can tell you personally, first of all, from my experience, कि कोई आपको inheritance आपको नहीं मिलती है. My father had died. Well, he didn't die a rich man because he was tricked out of his inheritance as well. And I don't want to hide that anymore. I don't know why we should. But he died. And my youngest brother just kind of completely tricked everybody, including his own mom, my stepmother, out of her inheritance. So no. And there's no questioning, nothing. He just kind of claimed that that our father did not have a will, which is impossible. He used to write everything down, just everything. So point being, that happens. It's very common, and you can fight it in the courts, but you're going to fight for the rest of your life. Is it that important? But for some women, it is important. It is that important. And again, I'm going to say it. The reason I say these things out loud, which feels like, why are you अपनी घर के मसाइल बाहर क्यों बता रहे हो? इसका मकसद ये है कि people are not alone. You or your friend or your family member or other people, you guys are not alone in this. It happens again and again and again all the time. ये हर एक के साथ होता है. और इन चीज़ों को छुपाना नहीं चाहिए. ऐसे लोगों को जो दूसरों को नुकसान पहुंचा रहे हैं, हर्ट कर रहे हैं, उनको पकड़ने का, उन पे कोई जिम्मेदारी, उनको, to help them take responsibility, there are ways to do that. We shouldn't, it didn't affect me as much, alhamdulillah, but जैसे हम बात कर रहे हैं, there are women out there कि अगर उनके किसी भाई नहीं है, बाप ने पैसे लेके inheritance के रख लिए, तो वो औरतें जिनको ज़रूरत है, जिनको वाकई में जिनको जो ज़रूरतमंद है, वो कहाँ जाएंगी, right? वो क्या करेंगे? So we need to be able to say it out loud so we can fight it, right? So we can help those women fight it. And if they're going to be hiding it कि हाय नहीं मेरा भाई है, मेरा बाप है, मेरा शौहर है, मैं कैसे बोलूं, तो फिर हम ही उनको हिम्मत देंगे ना. हम पहले बोलेंगे ताकि वो बोल सकें. By the way, this is my youngest brother, not to confuse him with my older brother. Okay. So there are many ways and categories of ageism. All right. Institutional ageism, जिसकी हम अभी बात कर रहे थे, जो कि ये इनहेरिटेंस वाला हो गया कि आप ज़्यादा ऐसा तो नहीं हो सकता कि अगर कोई विल है या किसी ने किसी लॉयर के थ्रू कुछ रखा हुआ है तो आप बस कहते हैं कि मैं नहीं दे रहा. यू हैव टू हैव अ सिस्टम जिसमें आप ये किसी इंसान को चीट कर सकें. एंड इन जॉब्स एंड दीज थिंग्स, दीज आर इंस्टीट्यूशनल ageism, interpersonal ageism, which occurs in social interactions. Again, जिसकी हम पहले बात कर रहे थे. How that happens is when you interact with people and your interactions are different in terms of आप किससे कैसे बात कर रहे हैं. अगर आप मुझसे बात कर रहे हैं, for example, a 49-year-old female, and you know who I am, like you know that, you know, what, I'm a journalist, you know my education, where I've studied, what I do, I run a business, and where I've lived, all of the details. But still, when you speak to me, you slow down the way you speak. So it's in very intricate details कि आप अपनी स्पीच को स्लो डाउन कर दें और आप बात को ज़रा सिंप्लीफाई करें, सेम एग्जैक्ट conversation को, compared to when you talk to a man, regardless of what you know his qualification is and what he is. Now, why is that important? That's important to note कि maybe बाकी लोग उसको notice नहीं करेंगे, but I will notice, or any other in my position will notice, right? And because we're talking about women and how it affects them and what it does to a collective of women in a society or in a group, what it does is at that time I may not say anything. और अगर मैं किसी को बाद में कहूँगी तो they might say कहाँ से किया, but छोड़ो रो करो क्या है, उससे क्या फर्क पड़ता है. बट ये एक आइसोलेटेड इवेंट नहीं होता, राइट? एक दफ़ा नहीं होता, बार बार होता है, डिफरेंट तरीक़ों से होता है, और भी चीज़ें हो रही होती हैं जिसकी हम अभी we'll keep going through it. So you start to wither. You start to feel smaller and smaller. That okay, I guess, never mind, he didn't think I was smart enough. I guess if he doesn't think that I can understand the concept, फिर उसको मेरा जवाब भी नहीं चाहिए. Never mind. Right? So you start pulling away from these kinds of situations because what's the point? Right? Because, you know. So, internalized ageism. This is exactly what I was talking about just now, which is when a person internalizes ageist beliefs and applies them to themselves. So this is one of the points. What's the point? I mean, people are just going to look at me that way. That is what it is, right? Women are not as smart. Women can't, you know, all of these things that we've been talking about. So you start to believe them. And उसके साथ साथ ये चीज़ कि मर्दों को ज़्यादा पता होता है, मर्द बाहर निकलते हैं, दुनिया देखी होती है, हमें क्या पता, right? That whole belief system that we have, that we apply to, that our older generation had, that then they applied to us, and then we unconsciously, it's somewhere, subconsciously, somewhere in the back of our head, we are applying to our world. I mean, we are in complete denial of the fact that we're applying it, but if we really think about it, if we really look at it, I think the world, I mean, not hum individual as an individual, no, but I think the world is applying it just a tiny bit. You know, कि अब तुम इस उम्र में क्या, अब बस आराम करो, तुम अब तो तुमने कर लिया, अब इस उम्र में क्या करना, अब इस उम्र में, that phrase itself, अब तो बस, like my sister, both my sisters actually, their kids are older, and they've married and bache and all that. And I tell them, this is a perfect time for you guys. Like, you guys should travel and do your own thing and, just like have fun. I can't wait for my kids to be old enough कि वो ये कर सके. And they're like, अब क्या, अब तो बस हम, and one of them just turned 60 and the other one is like 58, 59. And they're like, good health, and one of them is a little bit sick. But I mean, enough to be able to travel with us and just kind of have fun. And, so they have decided that this is the cutoff point. That's ageism that the society has dumped on them. कि बस अब हो गया, अब तुम्हारा काम इस दुनिया में, इस society में खत्म हो गया. Now you sit at home. You're done. Even if you're a lively person, even if you enjoy things, but you're done. That's it. You did the job. You're supposed to take care of the house. You're supposed to take care of your husband. You're supposed to take care of the kids. The kids are done. They're married with kids. Your husband doesn't really need you anymore in the sense that he's working. He's, retired and working, has his own business. That's it. Fun? What's fun? Women don't need to be having fun. And they've believed it. And most women have believed it. This is a life that all the women, especially in our culture, are living. Now, we're going to talk about the West because some numbers jo kar rahe the wo hamare uske numbers se, and we're going to continue with those numbers. But we will talk about how they manage and what the concept is there. कम से कम हमारे culture में ये concept है कि yes, you will disappear, you will wither, but you will not, and you will disappear, but you will be taken care of. And you will not be in control of your life, but you will be taken care of. Which is not really something, which is not healthy, but it's something, I guess. And then we come to hostile ageism, which is obviously aggressive attitudes towards older people, like, and that doesn't really apply as much to our culture. That applies to the Western culture where you are, where over there they do get hostile to older people. That happens. So we're talking about healthcare. So, I want to concentrate on that a little bit. In healthcare, ageism is very, very, with females, ageism is very prevalent. In general, sexism is a huge deal in healthcare, and I know a lot of you okay, so welcome to all of you who have just joined. That's a lot of you, and there's a lot of names. So just hello. And I hope you guys are caught up. And if you have any comments or questions, please go ahead. So, in healthcare, ageism is quite common. Sexism, we all know, is a very common thing. Sexism is ये कि we know कि ज़्यादातर यही होता है कि अगर औरतें complain कर रही हैं दर्द का तो ड्रामे कर रही है और treatment properly नहीं मिलेगा, especially pain medication और बीमारियां diagnose नहीं हो पाती, because ये मसला रहता है कि बीमारी है क्या, क्योंकि जो भी symptoms ख़वातीन बता रही होती हैं, nobody takes it seriously, nobody even pays attention to what's happening, क्योंकि हर symptom को ये समझा जाता है कि we're exaggerating और मसला पहुंचता ही नहीं है, हल तक पहुंचता ही नहीं है. So we have that problem. And then imagine that woman is older, right? Then it's like, नहीं आप थक गई होंगी, नहीं आप rest किया करें, ना आप इस तरह किया करें आप. Because with my mother, that happened a lot, and a lot of the things where it was so hard to get her testing done and her, a lot of things done for her. It took such a long time because she kept complaining, and we just didn't know what to do. She's like, yeah, I'm in pain. And then we would take her there, and they would just touch her leg, and they would be like, no, ये तो ठीक है, इसको कोई मसला नहीं, बस आप आराम करें ना, आप चलना फिरना कम करें. And my mother was a very active person. So even her, like, she was 70 something when she passed away. And so they just kept telling her, just rest. And she was like, I don't want to rest. I'm fine to walk, but when I walk, it hurts. So it shouldn't be hurting here because I don't have any disease. I don't have any other illnesses why this would hurt. So fix it. But their solution was, don't be a part of the world. If it's hurting, stop moving this part of the body. Just stop being part of the world. Just take a step back because, after 50 or 60, that's it for you. Why are you participating? Why are you going places? Why are you, involving yourself in the world? So, we would eventually get things figured out for her, but that's a huge problem. And not all women have the ability, the backing, the understanding of their families. क्योंकि घर वाले भी तो इवेंचुअली ये करते हैं ना कि बस ठीक है चलो आप दवाई खा लें, मैं मसाज कर दूं, मैं कोई दबा देगा. लेकिन वही बात है ना कि फिर हम उनको उसी केज में डाल रहे हैं कि बस आप बैठ जाएं और आपको कोई टेक केयर कर लेगा. और बस हम बुजुर्गों के साथ यही कर सकते हैं, उनको एक्टिविटी देना, उनको कि इनके मसला हल करो ताकि वो चल सकें. एंड एक और चीज़ जो साइकोलॉजी में जो बात होती है एजिज्म की, स्पेशली मेन और वुमेन, जिसकी बहुत जिक्र किया जाता है, which is extremely actually talked about as a negative thing, कि बिल्कुल नहीं करनी चाहिए बड़ों के साथ, is elder speak, जिसको baby speak भी कहते हैं, जो हम बच्चों के साथ करते हैं ना. कि वो जो मैं बात कर रही थी कि dumbing things down for them, कि अगर कोई बीमार है, बड़ा हॉस्पिटल में है या डॉक्टर के पास अब गए हुए हैं, तो कोई चीज़ एक्सप्लेन कर रहे हैं. ख़ासतौर पर अमेरिका में तो ये होता है, और अब यहाँ पर भी होता है, डॉक्टर्स के साथ तो ऐसे ही करते हैं. अमेरिका से मतलब है वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज़ में, कि when you ask them a question or you explain to them, ask them to explain specific things to you, कि ये क्या है और ये क्या है और ये मुझे क्यों हो रहा है और ये दवाई क्यों लिख के दी है. So they'll give you very factual answers. There's not going to be कि आपको कोई वो pretty picture देंगे या कोई आसान करके या कोई इस तरह की कि कोई बात नहीं, आप फिक्र नहीं करें, इस तरह की कोई बात नहीं करते. Of course they have to tell you exactly what the problem is, और ये आपको दवाई क्यों दी जा रही है, ताकि you will take it and you'll take it seriously. Now, older जो होते हैं, patients होते हैं, उनके साथ अक्सर होता है. And actually I saw that with both my parents, and they were actually much older when they actually had to go to doctors regularly, and काफ़ी उनकी तबीयत ख़राब होना शुरू हुई. My mother was in her 70s जब इस तरह होना शुरू हुआ. My father was in his 90s or late 80s जब ज़रा ज़्यादा ख़राब होना शुरू हुई. तो somebody would be with them, but they would ask a question. तो ये क्यों हो रहा है, मुझे दवाई क्यों लेनी है, ऐसा क्यों करना है. हम लोगों को तो वो जवाब देंगे, लेकिन मेरे पेरेंट्स को चलो बता देंगे दवाई को इस तरह लें और ये साथ मत खाइएगा, खाने से पहले, खाने के बाद, सुबह उठ के, whatever. And then they would say, आप फिक्र नहीं करें, बिल्कुल ठीक हो जाएगा, आप बस ये करें और आप बस रेस्ट करें, आप इन पे छोड़ दें, आप क्यों परेशान होते हैं, आप ये करें. Oh my God, my father used to hate that. He used to just be like, इसे बच्चों की तरह क्यों बात कर रहे हैं, मैंने आपसे बस मैंने ये तो नहीं पूछा कि मैं परेशान हूँ कि नहीं हूँ, आप बस मुझे दवाई का बताएं. Because most intelligent people, no matter what age they are, they're intelligent adults, right? If they're not acting senile, and if they're not acting like they don't understand, because what happens is a lot of times, which was the case with my father, was that he was hard of hearing. So if you're sitting far away from him and you're talking in a low volume, he wouldn't be able to hear you. And of course, a doctor is sitting, after he's checked him or whatever, he's sitting across the desk. And my father is sitting here and he's talking in a normal voice, so आवाज़ नहीं आएगी. और ये बहुत बुजुर्गों के साथ होता है, right? और अगर वो पूछेंगे क्या कहा इन्होंने, क्या कह रहे हैं, इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि उनको समझ नहीं आई दिमाग से, right? उनको आवाज़ नहीं आई. So don't treat him like a child, or her, or whoever the elderly person is. Just, like we would tell him, or my sister, whoever is there, would tell the doctor कि इनको ज़रा ऊंचा सुनाई देता है, आप थोड़ा करीब आके या थोड़ा ऊंची आवाज़ में बता दें. Or Just wait for somebody who's with them to explain it. And same would happen with my mother, that if a lot of things are being said at once, it would be hard for her to grasp it. So just repeat slowly and calmly. She understood difficult concepts. A lot of people talking, she'd just be like, "Acha, thero, tum batao, kya baat hai?" Right? So why am I making a point of this? When you start to treat people in a way जिससे उनको लगता है औरतों के साथ, मर्द तो अपनी थोड़ी सी वो करके वोकल होके थोड़ा रोब शोब से मामला ठीक कर लेते हैं. जब औरतों के साथ ये होने लगता है ना कि you don't have any value, तुम ऐसे बात करेंगे कि you don't know anything. मैंने आपके बेटे को समझा दिया, मैंने आपकी बेटी को समझा दिया, और आप फिक्र नहीं करें, हो जाएगा, ठीक हो जाएगा. And हमारे कल्चर में स्पेशली there is no room for speaking up again. There's no room for asking questions again. Again, फिर आपकी हेल्थ केयर आपके हाथ से निकल जाती है, क्योंकि फिर आप क्या करेंगे जब कह दिया गया कि हो जाएगा, ठीक हो जाएगा. You're like, हाँ लेकिन मेरा वो भी सवाल था, लेकिन तुमने वो डॉक्टर को, and then it's gone. Then and that's if you don't have your health, then you don't have anything else. Because that's the most important thing. Then you are stuck in a room. Then you are in a corner. So you don't have your money, or you're not in control of it. So that's आप अपनी decisions नहीं कर सकते उसकी वजह से, right? फिर you're not in control of your health because you're dependent on other people to explain to you what's happening, because your doctor is not sincere to you. He thinks your kids will take care of it, or you, or your husband will, or whoever. तो वो चीज़ आपके control से निकल गई. Because वो किसी और की सुन लेगा, आपकी नहीं सुनेगा. आप कुछ कहेंगे भी तो कहने आपकी बेटी ने तो मुझे ये बताया था, आपकी बेटी तो कह रही थी कि आप सही हैं, नहीं आप फिक्र नहीं करें. तो वो चीज़ आपके कंट्रोल से निकल गई. Even though cognitively you're absolutely fine. अगर आपके घुटने में दर्द है, so that doesn't mean कि आपका दिमाग भी सही से काम नहीं कर रहा. But that is how they will treat you. So आपकी physical health भी आपके control में अब नहीं है. So now you've withered away even more. Right? You can't work because you don't have the opportunity to work. We talked about that. You don't have the money that you should have if you had an inheritance, or if you had any way of saved up money because you put it in your son's account or your daughter's account or your husband's account. So you don't have that. You don't have full control on your health. You can't get a job because of the circumstances. And anytime you want to participate in a conversation, anytime you want to, put yourself out there, build your confidence, you're told, आपको नहीं पता आजकल क्या हो रहा है, तुम नहीं समझती हो ज़माने को. And if people don't say that to you, they make you feel it with the way they're dismissive, body movement or the eye roll or whatever else that happens. So I'm right now talking in a more psychological manner, because that is important, because that has a lot of effect on how women then start to behave. So we give up, right? I have given up. There's no way. लेकिन फिर औरतें जो हैं वो give up कर देती हैं, right? ज़्यादातर के साथ फिर यही होता है कि बस ठीक है, फिर ऐसे ही रहना है, right? अब give up करने का मतलब ये नहीं है कि आप, ये तो नहीं हो सकता कि you just stop living. You do go in the background, but you don't stop living. But then you basically think about it. Your kids are grown. Your husband has his own life, because men's life, quality of life doesn't diminish after 50. You're living, but you don't have much to live for, because your kids are giving you messages at every turn that whatever relevant information or relevant life, whatever relevance your life had for them, it's not there anymore, because you don't know how life works out there. You don't know anything. So all of that is set in. So now women want control. So they will control in any way that they can, which is not always a positive way of doing things. But then you need to understand that then that all of that, I know this is not exactly related to the topic, but then all of that, those things that we call women being controlling, and then all of the consumerism that selling towards beauty, anti-aging beauty products, and I could go on, but all of that, then that's where all of that, that's a separate topic and we should definitely go into it someday. लेकिन उसमें फिर ये सब चीजें आ जाती हैं. Then they want it back, right? Because they don't see any benefit in losing all of those things and sitting in the back and just doing nothing. Their life has lost its meaning because they were told the wrong meaning of their life. Because they were told कि बस घर है, बच्चे हैं, और मियाँ है, and as long as you can do that while looking pretty, you're good. And they were told not to concentrate on money and job and this and that. Job कर भी दो तो ठीक है, कर लो जब तक है, बस ठीक है. एक बार खत्म हो गई तो खत्म हो गई, and we'll take care of you. But then nobody's taking care of them. So then they're going to work on getting it back. Because then they're being told if you can get it back, okay. So then they're trying to be cool again, and then they're trying to be pretty again, and they're trying to get back in the game by this fashion designer and this style and this, that. That's what they're doing. They're not recognizing that every age, every time, every period of life comes with its own benefits. Life is not over at any age. Life keeps going and it keeps coming with its benefits. The only mistake that women made or the society made was to tell us that you don't have to worry about anything and you're going to be fine. You just concentrate on this one thing. That is the mistake. And our mistake was to believe that. So let me read this with my glasses. You see? That's what happens. After like 45. You forget where you put things. बिल्कुल जो 5 second पहले रखी होती हैं चीजें. So let me read this to you and then we'll talk a little bit more about what I am trying to say कि हमें क्या सीखना चाहिए before turning 40, 50, which would save us. Okay. I hope you guys are with me so far. I haven't lost you somewhere in the conversation because I do feel that this is really important. Excuse me. I don't know if it's really this hot or if I'm just... All right. So this is a study from WHO, again, 2022. Again, a healthcare key example, and I'm just going to read it really quickly and then move on. 2017, this was an example of older studies have found that doctors are less likely to refer older people with suicidal thoughts for mental health treatment based on the idea that this is a logical experience in older age. So, if somebody's having these kinds of issues and you just ignore them, because of course, what are the older people going to do? They've lived their lives. Once they've raised their kids, they've worked, raised their kids, taken care of their homes. Now what? See, we've designed our societies for young people, right? And we act like people after a certain age don't benefit the society. They don't have anything to contribute to a working, moving society. So we're going to address that in a minute in terms of our society and the West. A study so this is a study from Spain. It was conducted and funded by an institute, a Spanish Institute for Equality, Spanish Ministry of Equality. A study in 57 countries found that 1 in 2 people harbors ageist attitudes. So this is 57 countries, 1 in 2 people, like every other person, highlighting ageism as a pervasive global issue. So it's a global issue. It's not just like one country, two country, east, west. It's everywhere. Everybody harbors this attitude. So it's prevalent in institutes, socially, and public institutes, private institutes. It's the widespread normalization. Then, of course, poor health care. It's a systematic, it's ageism also reduces the quality of life for the people, increases their social isolation and loneliness. All right, despite its negative health consequences, ageism remains a neglected global health problem. So it's a global health problem. It's not just something that it's just like we see it every day. It's just like whatever, aapne kisi ko ignore kiya, badtameezi hai, whatever. No, it is a global health problem. Isse related jo issues hain, they're actually being looked at as a huge issue that is impacting people's livelihoods, people's health, and it's a life and death issue at this point. All right, so what is ageism? We're talking about ageism. We're saying ageism is bad and this and that, and we read all these statistics. So, just a few little things of what ageism is. These glasses are not loose on me. I'm just sweating a lot for some odd reason. It's not hot. I'm just having one of those days. You guys are awfully quiet. I really do not want this ke aap logo ke bilkul jo hai wo koi interest na ho isme, because this is a very important topic, especially for the young girls here, because I know aging can be scary, and I don't want it to be. All right. So assuming an older person is incompetent, or technologically illiterate, my kids have started doing that. I'm working and on the computer and doing things, and they'll just sit behind me, and मुझे पता भी नहीं होता कि मेरे पीछे बैठे हैं, और मेरे पीछे बैठ के, and they're just like, oh, अम्मी इसको ऐसे नहीं करें, इसको उधर जाए. It's like, dude, I've been doing this since before you were born. Like, what even? And sometimes they're just, I mean, can I just do it for you really quickly? It's like, can you just do it for me really quickly? Are you for real? What? And those are the things. And now they know, because I told them not to say this to me, but okay, oh, what do you know about this? And how will you know how to do it? If I really don't know, if it's something new, like आजकल इतने video games लेके लाए हैं और इतनी सारी और चीजें आ गई जिसका वाकई मुझे नहीं पता, and all apps and all that, उसका वाकई मुझे नहीं पता, and I get their help with it. But if I'm doing something that I've been doing since forever, I tell them not to say this to me. Okay, no, me, you don't know. Let me tell you, or let me help you. Because really, experience should matter. और जहाँ पे हमको understand करने की ज़रूरत है कि अब इतनी सारी चीज़ें और आ गई हैं technologically जो हमें नहीं पता. But they need to also understand कि if I'm working on, say, spreadsheet, I've been doing this since I was in college, which was 20 years ago. Or maybe more. I don't know. But they should respect that, right? If I'm asking them for help, of course. But if I'm not, don't look at it and say you're doing it wrong. Because, if I've been using this for so many years, and this is just an example, but whatever the thing I'm using or whatever, and sometimes I will ask them for help if I don't, know what I'm doing, or if I'm using something that's new. But just to assume, because this person is older, and that's the problem with this thing, that they think that technology, younger people will, not a lot of the all of the younger generations say that. When I say younger, there's so many generations beneath me, under me, that it gets confusing. That's the problem with some generations, they assume कि हमसे अगर बड़ी generation है तो they might not know क्योंकि technology तो अभी आई है. But the thing is कि technology तो जब हम छोटे थे, हम teenagers थे, तब से आई भी है और हम उसके साथ साथ grow कर रहे हैं. Right? So we're learning alongside of it. Just like, these generations, younger generations are learning alongside of it. तो ये understanding होना कि हम भी साथ साथ learn कर रहे हैं, वो भी. And their capability to learn is much faster, much more advanced. ठीक है ना? But to know, to think कि हम learn ही नहीं कर सकते या हमें आता ही नहीं होगा. We grew up with it. Just like they grew up with it. But we grew up with it कि हमारे सामने आई. We didn't have it growing up. But then when it came, हम भी grow up हो रहे थे, वो भी technology भी आ रही थी, and we were learning along with it. So Tora said that requires thought on the part of the kids or the kids who are growing up as well. Refusing, sorry, I need to put this on. I don't know why I took it off. Refusing to hire someone based on their age, making negative comments about someone's appearance based on their age. I mean, we can't dress like you guys, okay? We're going to do what we're going to do. At this point in your life, you want comfort, right? I mean, sometimes you have to let go of fashion for comfort. Okay. Excluding older adults, older people from social, that's my bad with the older adults, from social activities or decision-making processes, overlooking older people, older's experiences and knowledge, assuming that older people need care and support. Well, assuming that they need care and support is not such a bad thing, but I think they mean it in the sense that even if they're not asking for it, or even if it's not something that is needed, that you just assume that they're fragile or they can't walk or they can't do things. So here's the thing that I wanted to add to all this. Okay, ageism is not about recognizing somebody is older than you, or somebody has, or somebody, like it's, like we've made it so you can't ask people's age, they'll get offended. That's not ageism. Asking and recognizing that somebody's older than you is not ageism, right? And so we discussed all these things that happen over here in our culture, in our society, that we consider ageism. That we say that, okay, this is about money, this is about pushing women away, and it's a part of sexism, of course. But then we look at जो बातें मैं कह रही थी कि हमें शुरू करनी चाहिए to avoid getting to this point where we're old and we're away from our lives. कि एक point पे आके बच्चे बड़े हो जाते हैं and then women have nothing to do. And then they become these old, bitter women where they feel like, okay, so जब हमारा time था, उसमें we spent all our efforts, all our energy in taking care of other people, and now that वो जो prime का time था वो निकल गया है, तो now we're not worth anything because we don't have anything left to give. वही बात आ जाती है, nothing left to give, and now we're just nothing basically. So now they're bitter, they're sarcastic, and they're not in a good way, and they're just resentful of everybody and everything. So now I'll compare that to the West. It happens more so in the West, in the way that women are trying to get their youth back, because the youth is glamorized to such an extent over there. Because as soon as you lose that, as soon as you lose the beauty, and as soon as you lose that spring, and you know what I'm talking about, where you can catch a man, you can attract a man, you're done. And we feel like it happens to us because we don't have the money, and women don't have their own money, and they're not always encouraged to go and earn their own money. We feel like that happens to us, but over there's a huge dilemma where if you are not attractive enough and capable enough to either secure a job or secure a man in your youth, when you are pretty enough and you reach that age where you can't get somebody either way, then you're done. So you see, these lines, it's exactly, these lines are drawn in the same exact way for the same exact reasons. And over there, sexism and ageism is very intertwined, where jobs are available to pretty people. And there's also been studies and surveys about that if you're applying for the same job, same qualification, a person who is beautiful, prettier, will get the job at least 80% of the time. And that's been studied and researched many, many times. So for women, if that's been studied for men and women, you can imagine that for women, that would be the case more times than it would be for men. So उसमें फिर ageism भी आ जाता है. So वहाँ पे भी औरतों के साथ यही चीज़ हो रही है जो यहाँ हो रही है, लेकिन वहाँ पे ज़्यादा स्ट्रांगली हो रही है. ठीक है ना? वहाँ पे कम से कम ये है कि अपने पैसों को, क्योंकि वहाँ पे कोई बहन भाई माँ बाप आपसे पैसे आपके नहीं लेगा. If you've saved money, if you've inherited money, वो पैसे आपके ही हैं, आपसे कोई ले नहीं सकता. You have your own lawyer, you'll keep your money, वो पैसे saved हैं. But आपके साथ जैसे ही एज आपकी आगे बढ़ेगी, आपके बच्चे हैं, आपके घर वाले हैं, कम से कम ये सिक्योरिटी जो, I mean, and facts are facts, right? कम से कम इतनी सिक्योरिटी जो हमको है कि हमारे बच्चे हमें रख लेंगे या थोड़ा ख्याल कर लेंगे या कोई इस तरह की चीज़ कि हम घर में तो साथ ही सब रहते हैं, वो सिक्योरिटी वहाँ पे उनको नहीं है. वो सिक्योरिटी, either you're working, if you can find a job, or you go to a home. बहुत बहुत कम अब इन कल्चर्स में कुछ इस तरह शुरू हुआ है कि जो बच्चे हैं वो they've started staying home, which means that they'll take over the rent payment or, you know, the mortgage and just stay at, you know, or get paid off है घर, so they'll just take over the groceries and whatnot and parents can just stay with the kids. But that's very rare. अभी भी उन लोगों को ये बात समझ नहीं आती. Staying at home means that you're a loser even if you have a good job and you're, you know, just letting your parents live with you. That's not really being at home and being, you know, dependent. वो तो situation में ना कि you're dependent on your parents and you're not getting a job और आप घर में बैठे हुए हैं, तो वो different चीज़ है. But if you decide कि आपने university वगैरह जहाँ पे भी पढ़ना है वहाँ से आप घर आके और अपने parents का जो भी burdens हैं वो उठा के और उनको रखें अपने साथ, तो that's not really living at home. इनका concept बिल्कुल different है. But अब होने लगा है थोड़ा बहुत because now they're understanding. थोड़ी सी globalization ज़्यादा हुई है, तो इधर उधर से लोग आ रहे हैं, तो now they're understanding that this is really not a bad system. It works for them too. So that's starting to happen. Now I wanted to go back to what we can do from before to not get to this point where we're completely lost. And what is important is we need to understand हमारी situation, right? बाहर जो मसले हो रहे हैं ना, वो मसले हमें भी शुरू हो गए हैं, जिसकी मैं बात कर रही थी, जिसकी सनिया भी कर रही थी कि compare east to west. वहाँ पे क्यों इस तरह की चीज़ें हो रही हैं? Sorry, my leg starts to hurt after a while. वहाँ पे क्यों इस तरह की चीज़ें हो रही हैं? This is a whole, psychologically I can explain this to you. I can explain this to you in a way that वहाँ पे women have never understood their worth. I'm saying it. I don't, you know. They've never understood the fact that it's not about, I mean, I believe in getting dressed. I believe in looking good. I believe in all of that. And of course, our religion believes in that. There's no harm in doing any of those things, you know. And there's no harm in enjoying doing that. And there's no harm in getting compliments because it's fun. Compliments are always fun. But putting your worth in that being the only thing that matters, that's where the harm is. That's where age becomes the problem. Same goes for, of course, बच्चों की तरबियत करना absolutely important. There's nothing more important than that, in my opinion. If you are a mother or want to be a mother, again, that's not something that you can put on a person and say you have to be a mother, and that is something that you will do no matter what. But if you want to be a mother, then once you become a mother, nothing is more important than that, right? So if you are a mother or are going to be a mother, we have to put the most importance in that. So in your life, there are going to be a few things that you will put absolute importance in. So if you're doing those things, okay, well, thank you for all the people who've just joined in. I appreciate you guys joining in and listening. And again, you guys have any questions, any comments, please chime in. So here's where we separate the concept of aging with what is important. So बच्चों की तरबियत करना is the most important thing, right? And then what are you passionate about other than that? Whatever it is. That's, again, other than the children, if you want to have children or have children, वो चीज़ हो गई. Most important thing. उसके बाद, whatever your passion may be, if your passion is whatever your career is, if your passion is cooking for your family, taking care of your house, that should be it. So, दो तीन चीजें होती हैं, right? वो आपका passion है, that should be your focus. What you look like, what you wear, it should be nice, it should be clean, it should make you happy, it should be presentable. What your skin looks like, of course, everything should be good, nice, pretty. That should not be the focus of anything. That should not matter. And if anyone in your life is telling you that it is important enough for you to neglect other things, like your passion or your life's goal, not their life's goal, or your children or anything else, then they are wrong and they don't care about you and you need to shut it down right away. That is how you fight ageism, because age has nothing to do with it. Your ability to take care of what is important to you has everything to do with it. I hope this is making sense, and I need you guys to give me some kind of clue here if it's making sense to you. Because I know I went really far to come back to the point I'm trying to make. Because what happens is that we start making the things that are superficial important, so the things that are internal kind of get away from us, and then the superficial things like beauty and how well we can decorate our house, and how well dressed our children are, and how well we cook, all of those things become important. And then when at a certain age we cannot keep up with those things, or when those things are not important anymore because the kids are grown up and whatnot, then, or we don't look as pretty because you can't keep up the same look because age changes you, then we feel like, wait, what have we accomplished? And people start telling us, you're not as pretty as you were, of course. But it won't matter if we are accomplishing what we wanted to accomplish. Age will just become a number. Because, yeah, I had said in 10 years, I will be able to do this. So I'm focused on that. I had said by 30, I'll be done with this. And yeah, by 30, I either did it or I'm close to it. And that's my focus. What does my skin look like? I take care of it and have a few pimples, who cares? Moving on. What I look like has never been important. I want to look nice, of course, but that's not my purpose. I had decided that I will do this for my children and I will do this for work, and I'm making sure that my children are taken care of, and we'll go back and forth. And of course, I'll make sure my husband's happy. Of course, I'll make sure the food's cooked. I'll cook it, or I'll make sure it's cooked from somewhere else. But these things will be taken care of. So that's how you fight ageism. Your age is not going to define who you are and how you live your life. Because then when your kids are old enough and your husband's like, oh, you're not pretty, you can be like, well, okay, but I have things to do. 50 is not a cut-off number for anything. If you're sick, okay. But that's different. That doesn't have to do anything with your age. Y'all are a very quiet bunch. I wonder if you guys are even, because I get more response from, like, I've gotten responses before from, even if they're confused ones, please tell me if this is making sense. So, because I feel like I've lost you guys. There's a lot of you, but yeah, I'm just going to stop here and wait for you to tell me if it's making sense. Somebody, tell me. This is, okay, let's see if I can read some names. Can I make you guys raise hands? Is there a way to just, like, So the last person to, because we're about to end, I just want you guys to kind of tell me if this made sense before we go. Princess, what is it? Bangeja? I hope I'm saying it right. Amreen Chaudhry. I'm going bottom up, okay? I'm Abu Bakr. Oh, sorry. Tahir, Jamil, Varsha, Bisma, Asma, no one, Sarah, Zainab Shahid, Mariam, and yeah, that's going to be a lot. Okay, so yeah. So we get stuck in numbers and age and assumptions that our life is, there's an end to our life before we die. All these assumptions come from, I hate to say it, but men telling us what they want to look at and what their priorities are. And not necessarily there are brothers and fathers and husbands have those priorities for us. It's just a matter of the whole society thinking one thing, right? And everybody just kind of jumping on the bandwagon. That women are good for cooking and cleaning, and they're good for taking care of the kids and keeping face, and they're not that smart about, the outside world. And we've accepted that. And the same thing basically goes for the West. That is where it started, and we just kind of adapted that attitude, and we went a couple of thousand miles, million miles ahead with that idea that women are fragile, their minds are kind of weak, and they can't even get these concepts, these difficult concepts in their prime. How would they get it when they're a bit older? So we need to dump these ideas. We need to not concentrate on these and work on what is important. And if we start from day one, start concentrating on what is important to us, focus on what we need to focus on, and not give in to these things. When somebody tells you, "Choro, ab tumne kya karna hai?" just tell them, "No, but now is my time. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna continue." You need to be ready. You need to be prepared, right? And you need to not look at another woman or another young girl and tell her you only have 30 years. And when you turn 50, it's going to be done. So what you believe about yourself and how you function is who you're going to become. What you believe 50 to be is what 50 will become. If you believe that your life is done at 50 and you're just going to sit at home and crib at everybody and tell everybody how they've ruined your life because they took everything from you, then that's who you're going to be. If you're going to keep doing things that you want to do from day one and keep track of where your money is and what kind of jobs you're getting and keep up with everything around you and then be this active woman who does everything and takes care of her own business and, puts boundaries around what she can and cannot do and doesn't let people take advantage of her, then you'll be that 50-year-old who's not old and who's not out of touch with life at 50. So, we have to change. We have to change the way things work. And we have to change the way society works gradually. We have to bring women out of that whole thing where we have to look perfect, whether physically or in our head in a way where the house has to be perfect, the kids have to be perfect, everything else, and whatever we're doing, that job has to be perfect. We can't mess up. We can't, that whole thing that we do in our heads. We have to get out of that. And we're going to age. We can't stop that. When we're 50, we will look 50. Those wrinkles are not going to go away no matter how many creams we put on. That's the honest fact. So be ready for it. Because that's just how it is. People grow up. People change with age. Things happen. It's not a good or bad thing. It's just a thing that happens to people. You can't change that. Just focus on being healthy and just live your life. All right. We could do another one on this because there's so much I didn't say, and time, I'm looking at it, I went over, wow, that, Okay, so I'm going to go because I took so much of your time, and I hope you guys were listening because I just really do hope you were listening because this was a very important topic. And thank you for being here. Have a great night, great morning, evening, afternoon, depending on where you are. And I will see you next week.